Sorry, I just had to double check.
Yeah,
Sorry, I had to double check the faders were up.
I thought you were leaving me high and dry. So you just dove out of frame. We haven't even started yet.
Sorry, to peel back the curtain somewhat there, everyone, because that held on the support WrestleTalk thing for quite some time. I saw the countdown going, and I was like, yep, I'm all ready to go. Me and Dan have already had a bit of a brief discussion, bit of prep work. And then just as the one came up, I was like, did I lift the faders on the mixer before?
But didn't say a word, just exited frame. And I'm like, wait, what? What do I do?
So I just jumped up to, oh no, it's okay. And then I hit my leg on the desk on the way.
It was a bit of a nightmare on the way back, wasn't it? You've been through it already.
I have indeed. But welcome to the WrestleTalk Podcast review of Monday Night Raw. Please do press the subscribe button for more great content like this. Press the thumbs up button, please. That massively helps us. Massively helps us with the algorithm and whatnot. And please do get in your Ultrachats to WrestleTalk.com/support. Thank you once again to Professor Dan Layton for joining us for today's show. And of course, I'm the Cohen DAD. And we're going to be talking openly about here. Yes, everyone's botchamania. Lads. Anyway, we're going to be talking today openly about, the AJ Styles Judgment Day story.
We're not going to talk privately about it. We're going to openly talk about it.
Well, I mean, I could shut the mics off.
I don't want you to break your other leg.
I mean, I don't have to. I could do it from here.
Have you got the bad content? That is just bad content.
Genuinely bad content for a second there. But shows that I have got the power. So AJ Styles last week had an interaction with Finn Balor backstage where Finn Balor essentially said, "You're a loser. Do you fancy joining our club of losers?"
They didn't say, "Come be a winner with us," because they can't back that up.
They're like, "Come be a loser with us in the Judgment Day.
Yeah.
We run Monday Night Raw."
Yeah.
And I'll give credit to Triple H all the live long day for this. He has made Judgment Day feel like an actual faction, feel like an actual group, feel like actual purpose. And when they say things like, "We run Monday Night Raw," don't believe them.
No.
But it feels like it could be.
It feels like they believe it.
They believe
it.
And that kind of like adds some credence. And you've seen what's happened with Dominic, and he's being dommed all over the show by his mum or dad, depending on which promo he's doing this week.
Mamas and the papas.
And he it feels like it's elevated his stock.
Yeah.
And they keep taking out Edge. They feel like they're all right.
Yeah, it's interesting because like when they lost at Clash, I was like, oh, okay, that's it. I sort of started to feel like what Triple H decided to do was like wrap up the Judgment Day, make them a laughingstock because we already thought they were a laughingstock, and then they can go about their way, and he'll just do his Triple H thing with all the various people. But he has started to turn it round. There is. I still very much feel like I don't understand the purpose. And during the show, in fact, during the match with Riddle, Corey Graves was stating that they're taking over and they're doing this, and that's why they're getting it. And I was like, they haven't stated what they're doing. They're just joined together. They seem to be a team who have a shared love of black and purple, and that's their entire raison d'etre. But like you say, it feels like they believe what they're doing enough that if they have more segments like the main event and the closing moments of this show, I'll start to buy into them. I'm still on the fence for the Judgment Day. They're still spooky jobbers, as far as I'm concerned.
Spooky jobbers.
But we'll see.
They're the Dark Order 2.0.
Yeah, well, I mean, if that. They're like the tribute band to the Dark Order. the sort of like Dusk Order.
Yeah. I also appreciate your use of French.
Oh, well, you know.
Yeah. Although I do think using French terms is passé.
Jesus Christ.
So I was quite intrigued by last week. Obviously, Finn and AJ have got shared history outside of the world of WWE, which actually WWE themselves are starting to acknowledge.
Well, I was about to say that.
Dropping things like PWG on episodes of SmackDown.
This is what's interesting because we always had. It was interesting to have Finn Balor, there was kind of right. Get my sentence in order. There came a period where on NXT, Triple H started to just be like, you just use your real name. And Finn Balor's like one of the last ones who had to change. You know, it was obviously Prince Devitt, all the rest, becomes Finn Balor. AJ Styles comes in, is allowed to be AJ Styles. Samoa Joe comes in, Bobby Roode, Adam Cole, Bobby Fish, Roderick Strong. They're all allowed their real names, and we start to sort of acknowledge that things happen outside, which lends a bit of credence to this story because we could talk about how, Finn could be like, your best experience, your best runs have been with people when you're not operating alone, whether it be with the OC or whether it be with the Bullet Club. They could mention them. I feel like they're more likely to do things like that now.
I agree.
Because Triple H hasn't got small man syndrome in the same way Vince McMahon seemed to.
And he's quite open to just talking about these things and not worrying. Like, I think Vince's worry was always like, I think
WWE.
Well, no, that, but also like if you mention it, people might realize there's other wrestling out there and we'll go watch other wrestling. Yeah. Like, I think that was always one of the theories as to why he was like, no, we're just a closed off.
I always just assumed it was because he wanted WWE to be considered
the top,
the tip top, and to suggest there were other things made it seem like they weren't. Do you know what I mean? That you might have had success elsewhere. Well, it doesn't matter because you haven't had success here. So let's just not admit that you've had success anywhere. Japan is like partsUNknown. It's not actually a real place, you know.
And this week we had Balor approach Styles again and say, and I thought this was really clever here. He was like, look, you're going up against Sami Zayn, who's going to have backup. Why don't you come and join? Like, I'll be in your corner. I could have your back. And AJ is like, no, the only person who's got my back is me. And that actually led commentary to have a really good discussion, like their own storyline to play through this match that AJ had with Sami Zayn, which actually just added more color to what was already quite a colorful and wonderful match. It was great stuff between AJ and Sami. Sammy's one of my favorite things in WWE right
It's almost like it's two entirely different stories that come together in a very natural way. It's very and it's really smart to have, you know, brand split lol, but it's very smart to have the prime example, even though he doesn't know he's being played for a fool, of strength in numbers and being part of something and like Sami loves being honorary, being part of the bloodline, being one of many, to convince AJ.
Or at least to give AJ an idea of what happens if you are part of a faction and a group and this and the other. Because like they recapped what happened with Sami on SmackDown, which was a wonderful segment.
Oh my god,
so great. Every single person knocked that out of the park.
Yeah, and it's just I could talk about that story. I will talk about that story in a bit.
And the commentators were able to play this up on commentary, being like, look, like Sami has got Solo Sikoa in his corner. AJ is on his own out here, and like maybe AJ would benefit from being in the Judgment Day. Maybe he doesn't need to be an island unto himself. Maybe surrounding himself with people would help him in the long run on the main roster. And then it plays into the finish because Solo Sikoa interferes, hits a Uranagi on AJ on the apron that allows Sami to hit the Luva kick, and Sami wins. So Sami's storyline gets elevated because he won because he's part of a faction, and it sort of carries on from the episode from SmackDown.
And a big book for Solo as well as a show.
Absolutely. You know. And it furthers this AJ Finn thing because AJ lost and Finn was right in a way.
And that's the perfect example of when these storylines meld together. And it again feels like this is one company. All of these people work in the same place. All of these story strands are linked in some way. I think it is the same. I said it a few weeks ago. It's the same thing as Easter eggs, when fans love to see the world interconnect. Remember when, like, in early Marvel days, that's Captain America's shield in Iron Man 2, or like
even in like the Incredible Hulk, the one that no one ever talks about.
Yeah, with the Ed Norton one. With the weird face.
They just say Super Soldier Serum, and I remember being in the cinema being like, they just said Super Soldier Serum.
Exactly, I mean, it's because the idea, and even in comics, like people love the crossovers. Avengers versus X-Men. People love to think of this one shared universe. So seeing storylines blend into each other is always fun. When they do it in such a way that makes both storylines feel even stronger, it's even better. It's just fascinating to now sit here with a Judgment Day storyline and be like, oh, they could do this, they could do that, and they could do that. Do you know?
Bang on the money for me.
Yeah.
Which is that this is the first time I feel like I've sat here talking about the Judgment Day, being like, here is different directions that we could take them as a group. Granted, I think a lot of the stuff I liked about Judgment Day was slightly undermined by the end of the show when Edge returned. And we knew Edge was going to come back. We knew we were building to Edge versus Balor. And I think an I Quit match at Extreme Rules is very good. But it is just going to be, I'm sick of seeing Edge feuding with these lads, and I'm ready to move on. I was actually ready for Edge to be away for a little while before we got back to that.
Yes. However, it would have happened at some point anyway, because that wasn't the ending to the Edge and Judgment Day storyline. I feel like there is something in Balor winning an I Quit match against Edge, who doesn't quit. He said so in his speech. That's why he picked the I Quit match. Putting Edge away for a while, or maybe giving Edge a little something, I don't know, and being billed as this really strong figure to continue the rehabilitation of Judgment Day. I do see what you mean. I don't think it took away from me from the image in the end. Because here's the other thing that was really smart about that moment right at the end when they're wrapping his head in a chair, and you're like, oh, this is gonna hurt. It's not very nice to go and do it, and then stop and sit down and say, I won't do that to you, because friends don't do that. It opens the door. It allows for AJ to be like, yeah, you are one of the only ones who wouldn't do that. And you're right. I wanted Alexa last week to join Damage Control or to sow the seeds. Alexa being beaten up, for me, stops Alexa wanting to join Damage Control. This was the opposite of that, and I appreciated it.
Yeah, so the ending segment, as Dan was just saying then, is that
Jump the gun.
Sammy wins the match, Judgment Day come out, and Balor reiterates his point of just like, look, if we had your back, this wouldn't have happened.
Does a little...
And he offers up the 2 Sweet.
Yeah.
And AJ considers it, and he gets the 2 Sweet up himself, and he flips it around, and he gives Balor the finger. And you get the middle
outrageous
one, the middle one, no less.
In this day and age.
And I'm slightly annoyed. If you've seen the thumbnail we've got for this YouTube video, I was trying to get the perfect freeze frame of it. Because the moment that I've got, like the most clear version of AJ giving the finger, has got Damian Priest smiling in the background.
Right.
But what I really wanted was Damian's shocked face when he catches up with what's happened. And he does that just as AJ takes the finger down. So you only get this blurred image of AJ throwing his hand down. So
gutted.
I was gutted. So, I mean, if anything...
Next time, Damian, think of the thumbnail.
Well, I'm blaming AJ in this because you should have left the finger up longer, AJ, to sell the moment.
Story of my life.
What's that? After dark all of a sudden?
You present me an opportunity, I have to take it. I'm sorry, those are the rules. I don't make them.
And then Judgment Day beat him down, wrap a chair around his head. And Balor's about to stomp in. I was ready for Riddle to run down because Riddle and Priest was the main event. And they were already hyped. I was like, okay, Matt runs down and he makes the save. But no, Balor stops himself. And he just says, I'm not going to do this because friends don't do, like, because I'm your friend and friends don't do this. And I love that line so much. And you're right, because it opens up the opportunity for AJ to sort of self-reflection. And that moment, in this week following, to be like, what do I...
And no one came down to save me. Riddle didn't come down to save me.
Absolutely.
No one came down.
Which only actually... So I'm wrong in this situation because the idea of someone coming down to save him means that someone does have his back.
Yeah.
In this scenario, nobody had his back. So I love that. I think the storyline is really, really great. All of a sudden, this has become one of my favorite things on the show.
And it's the Judgment Day.
And it's Judgment Day.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the idea of like, okay, and then I do sit there and I fantasy book and I'm like, okay, so he joins the Judgment Day and then it's like his gear already works in purple. I feel so like this will be interesting on that front. Like, but then we could have Finn and AJ as on a big run as a tag team. Like, what that look like? You
could do the Bullet Club story. Like, Bullet Club is fine. Bullet Club is mine. The Cody, Kenny Omega. Like, who really runs Judgment Day?
Well, then Cody comes back and that gives Cody another storyline potentially because there's then 3 people who've headed up the Bullet Club at some point.
Yep.
You could also, I mean, this is where I go into the realms of going outside and thinking, well, now Trips is in charge. Could they bring people back? And what happens if it's like AJ doesn't join Judgment Day because he does have people who have his back, but they haven't been with the company in a while? Can the Good Brothers come back? Things like,
that's what I was going to bring on the point. Their contracts with Impact are now up.
Oh, are they? I didn't know contractually.
Yeah, contractually, I think they're now done with Impact. They signed a small extension, but that extension, I believe, is now over.
And if only there was someone in charge of WWE who rates tag team wrestling very highly.
Yeah. Now, I think there is a good possibility because I think you could have AJ brings back in the Good Brothers and you essentially reform the OC, which I always hated as a name. I hated the OC. California.
I loved it for that purpose, but I respect,
But, essentially Bullet Club versus Judgment Day, because you can do some great 6-man tags around that and, some Balor AJ stuff. And, there's a really good run you could go with that. Carl Anderson was quite negatory towards WWE, not just Vince McMahon, but specifically Triple H.
Oh, really?
When the Good Brothers re-signed with WWE before they got released. They re-signed and then they were released.
Massive contract, wasn't it?
Massive contract, and then were released during the pandemic. They were in talks with AEW, and Carl, was talking with Triple H. And Triple H said to Carl, "This is Carl Anderson's story, so it's not mine. I'm not reporting anything here." But he said that Triple H said to him, "Was like, you don't know how long that company's going to last. What you need to think of is your family in this scenario."
Ooh, yeah.
And then what happens a few months later is that, well, they got released anyway. So not only did they not take up a deal that they could have got, they signed a different deal, arguably for more money, but then also got cut. So I don't know what the relationship is like. Like, is Carl going to forgive and forget
different
the things
regime,
that happen? There's different
how much
regimes.
did Triple H have involved in releasing?
Yeah, different things could change. All I know is that when he was doing interviews, and he did with Sean, over on Fightful, it was quite negative towards the company.
That would piss me off.
It would piss me off as well.
Yeah.
But I still like the fantasy booking idea of the Good Brothers going in and doing some stuff with Judgment Day, but also, to ask the question, should AJ join Judgment Day? I'm looking for AJ to do something.
Yeah.
I'm kind of sick of AJ just being this wheel that's spinning.
Well, that's it, because
he's been a spinning wheel since Omos.
He's had some incredible runs. Like, his run as champion back in the day was really strong. He's AJ Styles, he's not gonna have you were always relied upon to have a really good match. But even if you have a really good match week after week, Lashley's another example with a belt around his waist, or rather over his gigantic shoulder. If you don't have a purpose, sort of don't care. So to have AJ Styles suddenly have a purpose again in some way, shape, or form, even if it's not necessarily a title storyline, is a really good thing. And that's going to serve to further, it's all about building for WWE at the moment, because they have been so in the dirt, dreadful for such a long time. Building good stories that will make people want to come back week after week and see what happens is crucial. And doing that with talent like AJ Styles and giving them something to do is part of what makes that work.
Yeah. I'm also, I think, from a slightly different aspect, I find it very interesting that Triple H is doing this storyline, because this is a storyline that is kind of aimed towards us, that internet fan base that knows of the Bullet Club history and the relationship between it, which WWE tends not to do.
I mean, they've flirted with it a couple of times, haven't they?
Absolutely, yeah. But it's the sort of thing that AEW comes under criticism for, which is they write storylines for people who are constantly watching and know all these ins and outs, and it kind of shuts off the mainstream audience. But I actually think they're also doing it in a very clever way, which this just works.
Yeah.
You don't need to know their shared history between in Bullet Club. As a mainstream audience member, you can watch this and know exactly what everyone's character is going on. So I think they're actually balancing it very, very well.
I agree completely. I think and there's so much history you can draw on within the company as well as outside the company. I just thought about their first match together. Do you remember that weird TLC where everyone was ill all of a sudden? We were going to have Finn versus Bray and Drag.
Yeah, it was. It was going to be the Pumpkin King versus Sister Abigail.
But then we suddenly get this match out of nowhere, and I remember at the time being like, "Oh my god, don't give away the fun!" Like
I was on my around the time I was getting married that happens, and I was on my sort of second stag do in a way. I was basically
you had two stag.
Well, I was out with my dad and my father-in-law. Like we went out for a curry, and I went out with my best man, and like my brothers and everything were there. And all of a sudden, I got a text message, and I just showed it to my best man, who's also a wrestling fan, and said, Kurt Angle's returned to the ring.
Yeah, and he was with the Shield,
because he was the part of the Shield. Yeah. He came out as Daddy Kurt, with his proud sons. Yeah. I'm one of you lads. Give us a vest, I'll put it on.
Give us a vest. You put on a vest, and suddenly everything's fine. Yeah.
But yeah, Matt all showed that.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you the question. Let's take the Good Brothers out of the equation for now, because we don't know what that situation is. So just based on what we've got now, should AJ join Judgment Day?
Yes.
I'm also saying yes.
Yes, I think it would be. I think there are just so many questions and so many branches and so many paths that you can take with Finn, with a big team. Are there leaders? Do we have the pair of them? And then from there, what do you do with that? Do you have them as like wrestling for control of the Judgment Day? Do you have them as a two-man power trip? Like, it's. I think there's so many potential storylines, and if it sticks to just as it is, we don't sign any new people, I think it is a bountiful story opportunity to have him in the Judgment Day. I would say yes.
Well, let's do a poll, shall we?
You love a poll?
Mod Mother, if you can hear me, could you put a poll up, please? Should AJ Styles join the Judgment Day, yes or no? I'd be very curious to hear. We'll get into your Ultrachats now. We actually don't have that many to go through, so we'll just do these, and we'll do these two we've got here, and then we'll go into the main topic of conversation. But this first one, it's funny enough, left over from the SmackDown review that Pete and Tempest did. So we can actually maybe be able to share some thoughts on this story briefly.
I would love to, because we never get a chance to talk about it, and it's the best storyline going.
Matthew Robinson says, how about having Jay get jealous of Sikoa getting wins, and then he goes back to main event Jay with Roman not there, and it gets out of hand, and he takes out Jimmy and provokes a match with Roman to change the tribal chief after he wins lots of matches. So the way to get Jay back into that main event scene and have him be the one that goes off against Roman Reigns. I don't think I know about that. Like, I love the Jay thing, but like Jay works best as part. I think I'm really enjoying him as part of the bloodline, but I love this sort of the jealousy that he's got, the hatred he's got towards Sami Zayn. He was my MVP of that segment.
It's so interesting because you know what? I'll tell you, I see what you mean and I see where you come from. For me, it's Jimmy, because I think Jimmy has a harder job, because Jay has to, he's open about how much he doesn't like Sami and, you know, doesn't want him here. And it's like, what are we doing? And that's delicious. And his performance on Friday was incredible. Jimmy has to be the one to ultimately take Sami down, because he's Sami's best mate. Like, they had that amazing like high five situation.
Yeah, you're right.
And so eventually, when Roman orders Sami to be beaten down, Jimmy's the one who has to do it. And that's going to be painful to watch, because this is the most delicious storyline, I'm going to say it, in all of wrestling at the moment.
I agree.
Because for me, as a storyteller, as someone who like just eats, sleeps and breathes this kind of... Game of Thrones is my favorite show of all time. It's the gray area. It's there being no such thing as good and bad. It's that everyone exists within it. The idea that Sami Zayn is this heel who behaves like such a lame-o, but we have such sympathy for him. And then the audience, when we see him get that shirt, he gets a baby face pop in a big way, because we all want him to be accepted in this evil faction of horrible people that we don't actually like. And then we see the high five with Jimmy, and there is, I think, a genuine affection there. It may start in not way, but then their performance leads me to believe that he actually has a fondness for Sami. But he's gonna have to be the one to break him down, and what's that gonna do? What's that gonna cause? And then the sympathy that we have for Sami is inevitably gonna. It's like when you watch your friend be in a abusive relationship, and you can't stop them from being in it. You can try and be there and try and warn them to see the red flags, but they're too deep in it. So you're just watching them, and we've all been in that scenario.
That's what Kevin's doing,
literally. And so Sorry, I just keep thinking about the ways in which and then the idea of KO and Sami going against Jimmy and Jay
for the tag titles,
delicious to me.
We've got War Games coming up in November. One of the things
but now I'm like, is that too soon?
Well, that's
for
one
Sami to beat her. Well, I'm loving this so much.
This was the question I was going to ask you, because we talked about this on Blackpool Content Club on Friday. Is which version do I like more? Do I like a War Games of the Bloodline with Sami going up against Kevin Owens, Drew McIntyre, and some other like Street Profits and whoever, or the Bloodline going up against Sami, KO, Drew, and someone else, doing it 5-on-5 or 4-on-4? I don't know which version of that I'd prefer. I in a way, I kind of prefer it to be the 5-on-5 with Sami on the Bloodline side of things, because I want that Sami going up against KO in the middle of the ring, and KO trying to reason with him and trying to get him back to be the Sami that we know. And you can then delay this storyline further, so you can then do Sami and Kevin versus the Usos at Mania. So you can, like, by having Sami on the Bloodline side in November, you've then got so much time to tell the turn before we get to Mania.
I also feel like, and maybe I'm reaching a little bit too far and getting way ahead of myself, if you do this right, you main event Sami Zayn, you turn him into someone who has a genuine grudge, has a genuine fury, a genuine heartbreak and pain behind him to take on Roman. Is that too much? Is that too far? Because Roman at this point is Thanos? I don't know. But the idea of it just has me go, could you eke this out a little bit longer? And save it? Not necessarily Mania. Not necessarily that Sami has to be the one to do it. But you could have him have a right crack at Roman, almost make it and build him to the point where in the future there's a Universal Champion.
That's a great SmackDown main event, right?
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to do that on pay-per-view. Like, if you've got a B show coming up where Roman's not going to be on, but you do have him on a SmackDown, what a great SmackDown main
Or you could
event
have it at the Rumble, even.
Or the Rumble's
because
a great
then you need a main event where, you know, I don't think anyone believes that Sami's going to win, but, like, you know...
That's what the Rumble's for. The Rumble matches sell the Rumble. So it doesn't matter that Sami might not...
what the championship match is, who knows? But I also do love KO and against... I just like tag team wrestling. I don't know what to tell you.
But on this main subject of should AJ join the Judgment Day, we've only got one chat on it, but it is from Riot DR that says, hey, yo, AJ joining the Judgment Day wouldn't be the worst idea. Hell, might even be good. My opinion, the current Judgment Day is better than Dark Order version 1.0. I consider Brody as leader as version 1.5. Also, AJ versus Sammy main evented.
Yeah, I this is the confusing thing for me, is that I see that Judgment Day final shot. I watched this earlier today.
Yeah.
And I see that final shot and that Sammy match as my main event because it's so cool.
I did write my notes. I wish this was the main event.
Yeah.
I get why Riddle and Priest was the main event because of the angle we got at the end of the show.
Yeah.
Meh.
Yeah.
This was a better main event.
This is the lasting image for me.
Yeah, although Riddle and Priest beat the holy heckins out of each other.
They really did.
Which we'll get onto in a moment, but let's kick on with the show. It opened with Bianca Belair and friends.
Bianca and friends popped to the ring.
Coming down, and they stood in the ring, and they watched a recap of them being beaten up last week. And it cuts back to Bianca Belair smiling.
They had a picture-in-picture, and they're just having a little chat with each other. They're like, hey, guys,
smiling, just watching themselves being beaten up and being like, you guys,
we were talking off camera before you went and had your crisis about the faders. I thought the first hour of this show was utterly dreadful.
I liked the Rollins Mysterio.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But specifically, it got me off to a really bad start, and I was very grumpy because what in the name of hell from a production standpoint was going on for the first 5 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes even, because they come out, like you say, they're having a little laugh, Bianca cuts a nothing promo, and then suddenly out comes Damage Control, and I'm like, okay, so we're kicking off with this Bianca versus Io match that has been advertised.
See, I didn't know this had been advertised.
I'd seen a match graphic.
Yeah, and apparently it was announced earlier in the day, but I didn't realize this had been announced because this segment ends with Bianca Belair challenging Io Sky to a match, or one of them to a match, and I did run around. I was like, "Well, it's a good job Io was in her gear, I guess."
Because Bianca, she didn't even challenge. What she did was go up and say, "And I'm ready to take you out." And then everyone seems to think, "Wait, what's happened?" And then the commentary like, "Oh, I guess we're having a match now." And then, "Could we get a ref in the ring? Oh, there's a ref in the ring. Oh my god, there's a..." And I'm
referee
like,
who slid from the wrong side because she was already at ringside.
Right. And I'm like, I think I wrote down, why are the announcers confused about this match? Then we go to commercial, and I'm like, okay, well, that was awkward, but when we get back, everything will be fine. But it's not, because we cut back, and suddenly we're backstage with Sammy and Solo arriving. And I'm like, I genuinely thought I'd missed a bit. I thought I'd missed the match, so I went rewinding. No, that's just the... But there's a... Production? I know Pete goes mad on production. I'm with him. This was dreadful. This was not good.
Well, I hated more the verbiage between Bayley and Bianca Belair, who had a terrible high school argument that was just, I did this thing that one time. And then the other one's like, well, yeah, but actually, when you think about it, I did this thing.
Well, yeah, but here's the other thing. It is really weird, because I wrote it's weird for Bianca to have a go at Bayley because she was injured. Like, where were you?
Yeah, where were you? Injured. Rehabbing to recover. And Bayley's there being like, I think you're fine.
And it's like, you because that was a heel thing to say.
Yeah.
You know, if she was at home sitting or like shooting a movie or being in The Mandalorian, like, you know, then they're off. And you can have a go at them for not being there. But she had a boo-boo. Don't have a go over that.
Out for almost a year.
Yeah.
Over a year, in fact. Like, I thought this made Bianca Belair look awful. Made Bayley look bad. Made Bayley look bad in a promo segment.
Yeah.
I didn't think that was possible. And I was like, no human adults talk this way.
You could say, ding dong, hell no, thank you.
But then Bayley challenged Belair to a ladder match at Extreme Rules,
which I'm looking forward to. I think
they'll have a great.
Yeah.
I've written here, both of them are coming off quite unlikable in this segment.
Yeah, they really did. They really did. I think the thing about Bianca is she's just good. She doesn't need to be. She doesn't need to be on every week. I don't know.
Well,
I'm a bit...
I would say that Belair does need to be on TV every week because she's the only person on Raw that has a title that she's defending in a storyline. Like Bubbles has a belt, but doesn't.
He's not doing anything.
He's not doing anything. He's just having matches in other people's storylines. Belair's literally the only title on this show.
Then don't give her a microphone.
I think she's a great promo, though. I think they write bad stuff for her. And this was not a good segment for me. It did lead to a pretty decent match between Belair and Sky, though.
I felt it took a while to get going, and then there was some real hesitant moments in there.
I completely agree with you, and I thought the crowd were not into this at the start.
Probably because they believed they were about to see a match that they were told, and then suddenly it was like, hang on, what's going on?
Yeah.
Like,
It took them a little while to get going. They did chant "This is awesome," but kind of like last week, it felt more like
everything is awesome.
Yeah,
you're part of a team. I didn't mean to do that.
It sort of felt like I say this in my edited review, more like a formality, than an emotional response.
Yeah,
like "This is awesome" used to be an emotional thing that people chanted because they wanted to Now "This is awesome" is just like a.
Well, we're so thrilled to be here.
I'm happy to be here. It's our first bit of wrestling.
You did three moves in a row.
They did
this
a spot.
Is awesome.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
And then Belair won with the KOD, pinning one of the tag team champions. Not all that great. However,
not that bad though.
Not that bad. This is what you do with factions.
Yeah.
Belair beats the Goons before she gets to the big final boss with Bayley at the pay-per-view. So I
wasn't mad about it.
Yeah. This was great use of Damage Control and Bianca Belair. I just feel so sorry for Asuka and Alexa, who stood on the ringside looking like absolute dorks and geeks.
Dorks is the exact word. Dorks, geeks, and dweebs. They look so foolish.
Yeah, because they didn't say anything in the segment either.
Nope.
They're just standing behind and being like,
holding Lily and holding some fans.
And it's just like they just look like the biggest
losers.
It's Asuka
and Alexa Bliss.
They show this replay of them like cheering for Belair when she wins, being like, "Yay, Argo won!" And they didn't celebrate with her in the ring. It was just Belair on her own while they stood at ringside, being like, "You're just the absolute best."
They truly are Bianca and friends.
Ugh. Yeah, they really are. Kevin was backstage with Reg Mysterio, who you'll never believe talked about Dominic. It's the same promo we've seen about him talking about Dominic, but then said, "No, hey, I will show my son mercy, but I'll show no mercy for Seth Rollins later on. No mercy, return confirmed."
I love it.
The Miz has lots of security now called the MizForce.
I need a MizForce t-shirt and I need it yesterday. It'll
be better than his "I've got massive balls" t-shirt.
I also loved that one. I stand the Miz.
Dead in the water.
I'm sorry. I like "Hello, I have massive balls" is fully hilarious.
It's one of the worst t-shirts this company has ever made. And this company has made a t-shirt which looked like jizz.
Did it?
Yeah. You know, like, I mean, Val Venus had a t-shirt that said,
yes, he did have that.
"Cocked and ready to explode."
Oh, God.
AJ had one that looked like jizz on a t-shirt. Actually, it might have been a TNA one that looked like jizz on a t-shirt. Sin Cara had one that looked like a penis. You ever seen the Sin Cara one?
No, I haven't, but I believe you. But no, while you're searching for it...
APA one, always pounding ass.
I live for this. I really do.
China once had a t-shirt that said "The China."
Yes, she did have that.
I know.
She absolutely had that. That's correct.
Sin Cara jizz t-shirt.
Oh, it would look like a penis.
Oh, no, it's the penis t-shirt. Sorry.
Safe searches off.
Penis t-shirt. Yeah. That one there.
Oh, that is a shame. Oh, I remember. No, I do remember that now.
Yeah. Oh, look, there's the AJ one. It was the TNA one. There's the TNA.
Oh dear, I don't like that. No, but I do. To take us off jizz and penises and back to the show, MizForce. Yes, please.
Yeah.
Immediately. I am a member of the MizForce. If signs were still a thing, MizForce signs would be everywhere.
Yeah. I actually thought the Miz was really great in this segment.
That's because the Miz is brilliant.
And I thought MizForce was very funny. And there was this moment I had with the Miz where I was like, man, the dude really goes out of his way to make himself look like an absolute prick. Like, not just the way that he dresses in a suit or his dumb sunglasses. Even his haircut makes him look like a massive tool.
Fabulous sunglasses.
And I'm just like, he goes the extra mile to make himself look like an absolute tool.
I have been on 3 episodes of the Raw review, and already we're turning the tide, and the Miz is one of the best in history. Put some respect on the name of Mike Mizanin. Reality check, Mrs. Gray. Next.
Seth Rollins versus Rey Mysterio. Rollins cut a promo before this saying that he cut
a dire promo.
It went on for a long time.
It went on for ages, Luke, and he said nothing.
He said very little. He said that he'll be just fine in the fight pit. You'll be fighting against Matt Riddle. He's not won one either. And he didn't really say much. Like, the only thing I could really think about Rollins, though, is that he is 100p the heel.
Yeah.
But because he plays the crowd like Phil and the crowd sing along, he just feels like the biggest babyface on the roster.
Well, here's the thing. I'm glad you said that.
Thank you.
I feel that it works for you to chant it because it's his Messiah complex. I said this a little while ago. Like, if you have them sing along and then you pop a squat on them, then it's fine. You can get away with that as a heel. But the crowd started singing his theme a second time, which wasn't good heat. That was the crowd going into business for themselves. His promo was boring AF.
And it's not like, because this was a Canadian crowd. Yeah. This wasn't even Bizarro World Canadian crowd, because they were also just popping for the baby faces.
They would
and booing heels and stuff.
I think it was a great crowd, by the way.
Great crowd all night, I thought.
Which is so in contrast to last week in San Jose.
But I actually thought this was a decent match between the two of them. We also got our QR Codelio for this week, which was a very fun promo thing. If you haven't seen it, it's got clips from ECW in it.
Does it? I actually haven't seen it yet.
Oh yeah, it's very cool. It makes people think that Extreme Rules, might be where we see the return happen.
If we don't, this is a very quick tangent. If we don't, how long is it before you get bored? Because the monster rating that SmackDown had this week is, I'm sure, in no small part because we thought we were going to get a little debut or something more. How long is it before the breadcrumbs aren't sustainable?
Right, Extreme Rules.
Extreme Rules.
I said this to Pete and Tempest in the office earlier. Yeah. Like if Extreme Rules is another tease and like another tune in to watch Raw, I'll be like, I'm starting to get a bit.
That's the thing with long-term storytelling. You can't just. It's not ad infinitum. I've done French
ad infinitum,
and now I'm trying to do Latin, and it didn't work for me. But you knew what I was going for. So yeah, there comes a point where it's like, right, now let's get on with it. That's why the Loomis thing has. We'll get into that in a minute.
Oh yeah, it's way past jump the shark. But this match was so good. It really kind of reminded me of how good they were together during that eye for an eye feud. Yeah. And while that was a massively silly stipulation, they had a really decent match around it. And actually, I thought these two worked together. I thought they had a really, really cracking little match here. It did end with some interference. Dom distracted Rey Mysterio and asked him to hit him with a chair again. Yeah. He's hardcore. And then Rhea Ripley pushed Rey into the post. I love this finish because it's not this bit of the finish because that was, it's par for the course. But they rolled Rey in and Rey gets hit by the stomp. And Seth Rollins doesn't pin Rey Mysterio. He instead locks in a submission and makes Rey Mysterio pass out. Because that is the way to win in fight pits. You can only win by submission or knockouts.
That is true.
So him not going for pin and showing Matt Riddle, I can win by submission.
I hadn't thought of that. In my defense, I was tired this morning.
Which is very interesting because later on, Matt Riddle wins by pin. He doesn't win by submission. So Matt's not got the right sort of tools going into there. But Rollins has shown, I can also win by submission.
Because I don't associate submissions in any way, shape, or form with Rollins.
Exactly. That's kind of the genius of it. And I thought it was a really, really smart finish to this match. I really loved that.
That's good. I will say I was frustrated as heck with the commentary at this point. I was already cross with them because of the beginning. And this one, Corey, and I'm a Corey Graves fan. I'm a Corey apologist. He was on something this week. Like, he was really off it. And it did. And Byron just being so lame. It's like, I get that the point is that you've got Anchor in the middle, one good voice, one heel voice, but bickering doesn't help. It sucks you out of it. It made me not care about them. And yeah, it was a good match, but I didn't care because I was so distracted and so irritated by what they were saying that it really started to get on my nerves. They did soften over the course of the show, but in this match in particular, I was like, and I was thinking more about, like, why did Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross work so well? Because Jerry was not this level of, it's mean. There's a meanness to what Corey's doing.
There is, like, the Corey Byron stuff is
he's not a suck up.
No.
So Lawler was a suck up, and that's what made it work. Also, Dominic and Rhea, perfect couples Halloween costume. Halloween's coming up. If you want to do that, you could.
Is that what we're gonna do?
I would love it. Can I be Rhea?
Oh yeah, I mean, I can wear a terrible wig and to be Dominic.
Bring some breadsticks.
Well, this week I said he looks like your cousin's emo band's bass player, who swears down there's going to be a big talent scout at the next gig they got.
No, he knows a guy. He's going to bring someone over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're second on the bill. We've got a 15-minute slot, and we're absolutely going to kill it.
God, it's the waistcoat. He just needs to take it off.
Riddle was watching backstage on a massive screen.
Competition winner Matt Riddle.
Is it competition winner?
The way he was talking to Bobby.
Oh, he absolutely cacked his pants when he saw him.
He really did. And then he was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Bobby."
They just sort of recapped the rules of Fight Pit, I guess.
Yeah, they did do that.
I didn't really know much of this. Owens and Gargano walked backstage and found some of MizForce already dead.
MizForce!
I mean, they didn't have name tags, didn't stand a chance.
When they have t-shirts, though.
maybe that's when they brute force is what they need. It's a my GM reference there. Kevin Owens and Johnny Gargano next took on Alpha Academy. Now, this. Oh, I'll let you go.
No, I want to hear what you want to say first.
I thought the match was great.
Okay, great, because that was thoroughly delivered. Because I love tag team wrestling. I love Choosh. I love every person in this match. I think Otis is amazing. Does the job really good. I think Otis being in the Alpha Academy at the first, I was like, whatever. It works so well.
It's so good here.
It's so good, and I think I just loved it from start to finish.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's Gargano and Owens together. It was in Canada.
Yeah.
So the Canadians were doing the Ole chant, but doing KO, KO, which I thought was delightful. There's okay. I'm going to praise a bit of Corey here, and I don't often praise a bit of Corey because I find him to be quite obnoxious at times. I've heard his podcast. However, there was a moment when Kevin Owens locked in the sharpshooter, and the crowd went ballistic for it. And Jimmy
in Canada,
Jimmy Smits is going it's the sharpshooter in Canada, and Byron's there going sharpshooter in Canada, the Canadians way, and Corey goes like, it's more of a scorpion deathlock if you ask me.
It really killed me. I popped big time for that.
More of a scorpion deathlock, really.
I really liked that. That was a great moment. He wrote that down too.
I thought that was delightful. But this match was a combination of two things. It was Kevin playing with the crowd, this Canadian crowd wanting to see Owens wrestle, and for great wrestlers having a great NXT TakeOver mid-card tag team match, complete with table break spot. And I was actually surprised that Gargano was the one that picked up the win because the crowd was so into Owens, but it was done to further the Gargano theory storyline.
And I also think that Gargano needs more of a KO has been a Raw presence for years. Gargano has just come back and just making his main roster hype. He needs wins. He needs to be seen to be the person having his hand raised and having his music played, far more than Kevin Owens does, especially in Edmonton. I loved this run-in. And I know I whinge about not clean finishes, but the reason I love this run-in is because it's the way you do it. It was, oh no, we're going to get another one. I'm really cross about it. Doesn't work. Puts everyone over really good. Yeah. Even theory storyline of running in and it not being successful, for me, was
pretty good.
I also loved the announce table spot. I don't know why, but for some reason this announce table break really got me. I really enjoyed it.
I thought it was tremendous.
Because it was like, oh, that's how you get Otis out of the way.
Yeah. And also Gable's sell of that slingshot DDT.
It did it when their singles match, it really got me. It got me in this moment as well. It's the best. I always get worried because it's a brilliant spike. And there were a couple of those actually in the show where I was like, ooh. But this was the best one.
And actually, I thought this match made Alpha Academy look really good. I thought Gable and Otis had their stocks raised coming out of this match, even though they lost, and they do lose a lot on TV. They came out of this match feeling like a bigger deal because they kicked out of some big moves, and Otis looked really, really great.
There was a moment where he gave him a little kiss.
Yeah.
Did you spot that?
Bearing in mind as well that these two were absolutely destroyed and humiliated by Braun Strowman in that 2-on-1 handicap match, which then sucked later on when they had a backstage segment with Austin Theory, who says that Braun calls them up and says, I've got a match with Chad Gable next week in his hometown. And I was like, what's the point?
Yeah.
This does nothing for Braun. It does nothing for Gable.
And it sucked me right out of my suspension of disbelief. And suspension of disbelief is already a fragile thing in wrestling, because we all know. But are they on television? Do they know they're on television? How can Braun hear them? It just was like, how does Braun have Austin Theory's number?
I didn't like that. I'm already gutted about this because I just really thought we might go somewhere with Alpha Academy. Maybe we could try and get something going. But I've already seen Braun beat him up. I've seen them beat him up 2-on-1. Why do I need to see him beat up Chad Gable?
I still think that Chad Gable and now Otis are good enough to take it a couple more times. I love tag team wrestling. I love the Alpha Academy. Chad Gable's amazing. I've seen him do it. I'm here for them for as long as I've got time for them.
Absolutely, I've got all the time in the world for them.
Yeah,
but if I'm bringing Braun back in,
I don't have any time for Braun. Can I tell you how little I care about Braun?
I could listen all day because I've got no time for Braun.
I just don't care.
Yeah,
they did nothing for me. Braun, okay.
I had a bit of fun with him when he flipped over an ambulance, and then when he first started doing the choo-choo train thing.
But it's the same. We got it again a little bit later. We'll talk about it during Omos, because his whole thing is big man.
Yeah.
Can go smash. Don't care.
We then handle the AJ stuff with Balor, and then Omos walked backstage, which ties us nicely into Omos versus 2 local lads, because the BT and USA feed cut out last week, so we didn't get to see Omos.
We did this time. I wrote down nothing.
Well, I also could say is that last week we made the presumption that Omos beating 2 lads was probably boring and not worth watching. I'm glad that our suspicions were correct, because this was boring and not worth watching.
Yeah.
However, I do think that MVP set up something in this match.
Oh.
Because Omos is beating these 2 lads up, and it's a bit dreary. I've seen it before. And he then says, hey, Braun may be the monster among monsters, but he's no Nigerian giant. And I was like, oh no.
Big beefy men bashing each other around.
We're setting up Braun versus Omos.
Yeah.
And I can't think of a match I want to watch less.
It's so thrilling to have a bathroom break sometimes. It really is.
Don't say that to Kate. Like, over a fightful, oh no, let's not bring this up again. Poor lass. It's had all of it over the weekend for all the wrong reasons. Yeah, I think that sounds utterly horrible. This was dreadfully dull. I've got nothing else to say about it.
No.
Miz walked backstage and found all of MizForce dead.
In perfect comedy form.
And then it looked like it was a mannequin behind him wearing some Kevin Smith merchandise, but it was actually Dexter Loomis.
Can I tell you it worked on me?
Oh, me too.
In the same way that I got the jump scare from the children at his home that time. I was like, he's in the mannequin. He's in the mannequin.
It's because he's quite bland.
Yeah.
That he just sort of fades into the background as Dexter.
He does a little bit, yeah.
But this was a great reveal.
I loved that.
I thought this was a superb reveal.
Yeah.
And he hits Miz with a hockey stick, strokes his face, puts him to sleep. And while this was a very good reveal and MizForce was a lot of fun and there were some prizes to be won, I'm ready for this wacky show to move to a new chapter. I have read chapter 1.
Here?
I've read chapter 1 of this book for the last 8 weeks.
Yeah.
I'm ready for chapter 2 now.
Yeah. This was a great segment for the 3rd time he did it, but for what, 5, 6, 7?
Yeah.
Bored.
Yeah.
I need to know. I need to know why he's there. When we spoke about this before, I'm a fan of it. I'm a fan of Loomis. I'm a fan of Miz. I just want motivation. That's all I want. I want to know why he's there.
Yeah. Make him his brother already.
Please. Loomis. Loomis.
Well, I mean, Adam gets all of his booking ideas for me anyway. So I gave that as a suggestion.
Shade.
Well, okay, it's not even really the shade. Adam basically says to the office, I'm out of ideas. What do people want me to do? And I'll be like, we could do this. I gave him Dexter Loomis. And like, that's your next booking video. Yeah. And you could do Loomis. And that's why Miz won't say anything. And that's why Miz won't announce what happened, because he's found out the truth.
You have to admit it.
He doesn't want to admit it.
Loomis.
Speaking of surprising, so WWE got me again.
Yeah, they did me too.
Yeah.
I sat up. I literally sat up. I was lying prostrate.
I've said this in a number of weeks now since Triple H has taken over. He makes you have to concentrate on the show, otherwise you miss something. They did this Dexter Loomis and Miz thing. They went to an ad break, so I'm already pressing fast forward to get through the ad breaks. Comes back and the show's on, and it was like, moments ago this happened, and I went, so fast forward again because I've already seen this. Press play. Who's there? I think Candice LeRae is there.
Candice LeRae. I had pressed play slightly earlier, so I saw Nikki, and then I was watching this music, and I was like, "Who's that? Is there a little gimmick? Is this Alexa got a new?" Oh,
it's Candice LeRae. And I was like, I didn't see this coming, and I got caught out again.
Yeah.
So I missed the wonderful big moment reveal because they'd suckered me in by showing me a duff replay that I've got no interest in, and I fast forwarded through it. More for me.
Yeah, more for you, because every recap with The Miz is the most must-see recap.
So more for me. I missed out on the fun here because this is a show that is making viewers watch every single moment of it because you don't want to miss something. Great work once again. This was a bit of fun. Candice is back.
Yeah.
She beat Nikki very, very quickly with the swinging neck breaker off the second rope.
I was a little bit like, oh, that was too quick for that. And then but then 2 things happened that I was like, oh, lovely and tasty. I did write down this incidentally is what an open challenge is for. You know, Bianca, if we want to have Bianca do something on the show, open challenge like she did with Sonya Deville, and then we get Candice LeRae's coming for a challenge. They have a decent match. Candice LeRae won't win because we want Bianca to keep the title, but it's a good showing for a returning superstar. It's a reminder of what she can do. But they didn't go down that road. They gave us what was essentially a squash match, and I was a little bit like, how do we feel about that? But then Nikki's little moment
loved it.
Was such a nice touch to be sat in the corner looking at her mask. The sympathy I felt for a character I cared very little about.
Yeah, she was like almost crying.
Yeah.
I thought the shocked face she had when Candice came out was really good as well, because that is it's another new face in this division. I've already don't have much of a spot on this card, and I'm always losing. I was this almost a superhero. I used to be the women's champion. I used to be a tag team champion, and now I'm nothing. Like even Doudrop's not really around these days. So like, I thought it was a really good performance by Nikki. I think this is the end of the Nikki ASH character. About time too. Yeah. Because that whole Doudrop thing has been like, we should probably stop doing this, and she kept doing it. But again, nice to see Candice back, and she immediately inserted herself as being one of the and friends with Bianca Belair. So
she did, which I'm not mad about.
Me neither,
because at the moment she still has a character. You know, Asuka and Alexa don't have any. A little bit of zhuzh, maybe interesting. What's interesting for me about this as well is when we look at the wider context of the wrestling landscape at the moment, especially with a couple of recent bits, is that one of the fun things during the Monday Night War would be when someone would leave one company and show up on the other, and because at that time we didn't really have
wider access to the Observer.
Exactly. So we didn't really know whose contract was up when, blah, blah, blah. So like Chris Jericho, I think of as arriving was a pretty, momentous moment, especially if you weren't someone who watched both shows, and I wasn't. All of 10 years old. But with
you're so young.
I know, I'm so young, and you can tell as well. From what's her name? Candice coming back. These strangers, randos coming back who've been away, coming back gets you that pop without having to poach from AEW. But what's super interesting, I mean, that first proper we had it with Cody, but that first like AEW to WWE jump in the Triple H era is going to be unbelievable to see. But what's curious to me is the fact that anyone who has come back has gone immediately into a high-profile, long-ranging story. When we think of Dakota Kai coming back, Johnny Gargano, and now Candice LeRae inserting herself into the main story in the women's division at the moment, versus AEW kind of hoovering up anyone who didn't get a run in WWE, and then not having a run,
and then not having anything for them.
And like, so we're looking at, I'm thinking specifically about Malachi Black. Or even Andrade.
I mean, I would argue Black at least came in with a story.
That's true.
He came in with the Cody feud. And the Cody feud did go on for a little while and actually did quite a lot for Malachi Black. Andrade's a very good example there, because Andrade did nothing for the first few months he was there. Miro's another good example. He came into a storyline with best friends and with Kip Sabian, but it didn't really do much for him.
And I'm seeing Saraya come out and just sort of say hello and have an amazing pop, which she rightly deserves, because, but... Yeah. What are you going to do? We don't know your status.
Jury's out on that one.
But you could just be there. Ruby Soho is another example.
Yep.
And I'm just a bit curious by... that said, obviously it's still early days of the Trips reign, so all of this praise I'm giving it, all of these returns, they may get sucked into...
I was going to say, because you can't do returns every other week. No. And there will be a period of time when Trips doesn't have the... And I'm not even saying that he falls back onto the returns to get the cheap and easy pop, but there's only so many returns you can do.
If you're going to poach a talent, they need to have a story, and the talent you've already got need to be in the story too.
Well, they were said about NXT, like, don't take on to the main roster unless you've got a plan for them. And they often brought them up without any plans, and that's why they all floundered. Candice LeRae, clearly, I think they have set up to do her with Bianca and friends versus Damage Control at War Games. Like, that's your women's War Games match, which kind of makes the idea that it might be 4-on-4. Who's Damage Control? Well, who's the fourth person for Damage Control?
Alexa. I want it to be Alexa.
No, she's on the good.
I know, but I want her to leave it, and then they can have like other people.
So that's what I think is the likely, like her aligning herself. And I was like, well, there's 4 of them now. Like, I feel that is War Games territory.
Yeah.
Video promo for Logan Paul versus Roman Reigns. I didn't watch a lot.
I skipped this.
I skipped this. Then I was running late. I had to take the kids to nursery this morning because my wife's not well.
I just don't care about Logan Paul. I know I shall. I'll watch it properly when we get close to the event. But no.
I mean, even then, I will watch it because it's my job. But However, I did watch this bit, and I'm glad I did, because Kevin interviews Judgment Day, and I didn't really watch much. I didn't really much of this, but when it finished, they all hugged, and Damian Priest went, "Oh man, we rule."
Oh man, we rule.
Oh man, we rule.
I really do. It killed me. Oh man, we rule. That's like improv. What the just talk to each other at the end of a news broadcast, but the mics are still up. It was so good.
It's just, oh man, we rule.
We rule. I loved it. I was so happy. It really made my
like
day.
The goofy heels. They're not goofy heels, but it's something a goofy heel group would do.
Judgment Day are goofy heels, and if we can just accept that works for me.
I thought it really made me laugh.
So good.
And then the main event, speaking of, was Damian Priest versus Matt Riddle. We've already talked about the Sammy AJ stuff. Crowd were tired, man. Like this was long show, lots of long wrestling matches.
Given the main event.
They've already been given the main event with their Canadian home country person. Yeah. So they were tired. But I think that these two beat the hell out of each other and hit each other so very hard that the crowd were very much awake for it by the end of the match. And then the return at the end certainly helped with that, Maz. Particularly a moment when Damian Priest dropped Matt Riddle so hard on the barricade on his back, and Riddle selling it was like a woof. Oof! It looked and then very cut sore.
To a break, and I was nervous.
Yeah, sore it looked.
And like it's convincing. It's selling that's what selling is, everybody.
Yeah,
it worked.
But hey, there was distraction and interference. I thought there was too much of it on this show for me. It was every match by like maybe 2, I think.
They gave me a good... I think some of it was okay. I wasn't as cross about this one as I was previously.
I think only by this point I'm like, all right, I get it.
Right.
Like, I think it's like AEW have this at times as well, where it's like, I get it. Like, too much interference in matches it's a cheap way to write your finish. And actually, AEW do all the smacking time, and it is like all right, yeah, I get it.
Trips does love that.
But I think especially across a 3-hour show, it is just like all right, I get it.
That's it.
But I thought this match was actually pretty good, considering that I was done with this show.
Yeah, I was a bit done too.
After with the AJ Judgment Day thing, I was done. I was ready for the show to be done so I could get the train. But I thought actually they kind of turned me around on it, and I really enjoyed it by the end. But Matt Riddle overcame the distractions, and he rolled up Damian Priest, and he won. And then they beat him up immediately afterwards. Judgment Day did. And who should run down to make the save? But on this day, Edge came back and challenged Balor to an I Quit match at Extreme Rules. It's really stacking that card for what is effectively a B show.
A B show. I'm quite excited for Extreme Rules. Well, that's it. I mean, I think he's still looking to put his stamp down and say that even our secondary shows are still going to matter, because we do have that notion of, I can skip this one. He doesn't want us to skip the big shows. Every takeover was a banger.
Well, yeah. So we had this conversation in the office today. In our 70K update, we did make the proclamation.
You did. I remember. I was there. I watched it.
We won't be doing every B show WWE pay-per-view because it's a bit of a money pit for us to do it. While we do enjoy doing them and it is fun, it loses us business. It loses us money.
Because there's no point in watching it from an audience perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't think people enjoy...
Not the streams, you understand, which are always of an A-star quality.
Thank you
very much. The show themselves.
Yes. Well, we did have a discussion in the office today, and it was very rarely, actually not much about the card itself, but the what if it is Bray, though.
Right.
And like, do we do the Extreme Rules on the off chance that it's Bray? And I was like, maybe, but like, even when we've had like the MJF one, actually didn't end up drawing us much more. The Cody reveal at Hell in a Cell didn't draw us anything. People didn't come to us to see that. Like, I don't think our brand is people coming to us to see live reactions. It's what culture, Cultaholic, like their audience, and actually a wider audience, go to them to see what their reactions are. They don't really come to us for that. So I think even if Bray did, we wouldn't do it. But that's kind of an off-topic thing. I'd actually be actively annoyed though if we did do it and Bray didn't show up.
Yeah.
Or the White Rabbit storyline didn't pay off, and and the White Rabbit storyline was like, tune into Raw. I'm absolutely fuming.
I personally though, I'm really intrigued to see Triple H do a B show. Because I think, like I said, every takeover show was a banger. Some matches didn't always work, but I always had a good time watching the takeovers. I think he wants to create that idea that you can't miss this. And Extreme Rules I don't care about, but I care about currently the matches in Extreme Rules.
Not all of them, but some of them I'm quite into the idea of. Like, I actually think Edge and Balor will have a banging.
Yeah, I think the ladder match is going to be amazing.
Yeah, no, actually, do you know what? The storyline might not be good, but the in-ring match will be very good.
I was never someone who was like Eat, Sleep, Breathe NXT. I didn't watch every single week, and half the time I didn't even really know the storylines. But I would tune into every single takeover. They give me a nice little package, and I'd see some incredible wrestling.
It is the first time as well, because when we made that 70k proclamation, it was in the Vince era.
Exactly.
So
that's
that
what
was
I mean.
when B shows were nout.
I think they might be from now. I'm curious. We'll see what happens with Extreme Rules.
But we'll see what happens. That was this show. I actually thought it was a very, very good episode. I gave it a high 4 out of 5. I couldn't give it a 5. It's not an all-time classic episode, so it's not 5 out of 5. Also, it's 3 hours. It's too long. But I did think this was a 4 out of 5 show. Like, I was very rarely bored throughout. I thought a lot of the wrestling on this was excellent. I thought it furthered some stories, which is what we didn't get last week. And we've got some exciting stuff announced for the pay-per-view. So for me, it's a thumbs-up show.
2.5 for me. I was so cross.
Daniel!
What can I say?
2.5. Yeah. We also have a result of the poll.
Oh, tell me.
Of should AJ join the Judgment Day? 66% voted yes.
Yeah.
While 33% voted no.
That's a nice. We love a two-thirds majority.
Indeed, yes.
Motion carries. AJ will join Judgment Day.
Get in the rest of your Ultrachats to WrestleTalk.com/support. We'll read out every single one of them above the $5 tomorrow. Over on our Patreon page. We don't have any shout-outs for that today, but tomorrow on our Patreon page will be Ollie Davis and I reviewing Unforgiven 2008, the Scramble pay-per-view, where they tried to introduce a new concept that did not work, and by the end of it, I was actively angry at. But I thought the ECW Scramble match was a bit of fun.
I like a Scramble match.
Well, you know, the one, like, it's a fun concept. When you do it 3 times in one pay-per-view, it actually goes. Also, the second match.
That's WWE for the past 10 years.
The second match is just Triple H buries the mid-card for 5 minutes.
Yeah, he did do that.
Yeah.
For a few, didn't he?
Self, Andy Datson, and Social Media Abby having quite the 2-hour conversation.
Bit of chaos.
It is our most talked about After Dark episode in quite some time.
The most must-see. I get it from the Miz.
It was quite the episode. Yeah. I'm thankful to everyone who has sent us the secret word.
Yeah, the secret code, which I was about to say, and then I realized we made a point of it being secret.
Yeah,
for a reason.
Thank you all so much that has listened, and I apologize to those of you who did. Armageddon,
I have no regrets.
Armageddon 94, who's been a membug for 5 months, said, I think Dexter Loomis should join Judgment Day. Oh, I don't like that at all. Judgment Day prey on people's insecurities, and they can use Loomis to help them expose those insecurities.
I see what you're saying. If we're going to have a heavy for the Judgment Day, though, let it be Damian Priest.
Charles Berg, we gather here today to celebrate my final day of vacation. It was lovely. In case I'm wrong about my genius idea of Loomis, my other theory is that Dexter is a huge fan of the Marine franchise, but he's socially awkward and doesn't know how to tell the Miz.
And Becky's not around yet, so you can't tell her.
Or Ted DiBiase Jr.
Was Ted DiBiase Jr. on the Marines?
Yeah, I think he was he the second Marine?
How many Marines are there now?
Was he the Marine 2? The Marine 2.
Do you remember when John Cena started wearing military shorts because he was in the Marine?
Ted DiBiase?
Well, there you go.
I was right. With Michael Rooker, no less. Before James Gunn rehabilitated his career.
Who's Michael Rooker?
Yondu from Guardians.
Oh, I've met him.
Have you really?
Yeah, I met the whole cast.
Did you do a junket?
No, I'm very special. We had a screening of Guardians 2, and it was at the YouTube space.
Oh, you went to the YouTube space?
Yeah, where I met Big Dave Bautista. Oh my god, I need to show a picture in a minute.
Yeah.
Anyway, and I met the whole cast, said hi, but it was the weirdest thing in the world because it was just like we were all there having nibbles and drinks or whatever, and then a door opened and they just wheeled the cast in for us all to say hello to, and then my friend Mike really charmed over Zoe Saldana, and I remember it being the weirdest thing in the world. I was just watching like, what is happening exactly? But yeah, I
went to the oddest screening of Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yeah,
I went to it at the O2 Apollo.
Oh,
in Shepherd's Bush.
The premiere.
Yeah.
Oh wait,
Shepherd's Bush Apollo.
Hammersmith Apollo.
Yeah, the Hammersmith Apollo. Sorry, I do apologize.
There are two. The Shepherd's Bush Empire. Come on.
Shepherd's Bush Empire, Hammersmith Apollo. I was trying to think what it was, and I was like, it's definitely the Apollo. It's the Apollo. And I went to Shepherd's Bush. No, I didn't. I went to Hammersmith.
You did.
And it was the oddest thing because they did it like it was a gig. So they were selling like gig T-shirts for it and like merchandise you can go and buy. And I bought a gig T-shirt for this gun, and it's basically just got the Awesome Mix Volume 2 cassette.
Yeah.
And on the back, it's got like the tour dates, and it's all the planets that they visit. And then it ends with the Hammersmith Apollo.
That's cool. We like
London.
That. We stand.
I thought it was very, very cool. Although it was weird because they also had like a DJ set.
Yeah.
But we were all sat in our seats ready to watch a movie. So it was just a DJ playing to sat people.
Everybody put your hands up. No, seriously. Do you want to see a funny picture?
I'd love to see a funny picture. Great audio content and visual content.
I'm going to show and I'm going to describe. Do you remember the night Brexit happened?
I do indeed.
Well, I was in America.
I was asleep.
I was in America at VidCon. And I got drunk. Very drunk. Very, very, very drunk indeed. In fact, so drunk that I woke up the next day with a 3-day hangover. It really lasted.
An Ollie Davis special.
And I woke up to see a picture on my phone. And then all the memories came flushing back of me with Xavier Woods. There it is, everybody. That's me and Xavier Woods just hanging out.
You and your faux hawk as well.
It wasn't supposed to be. It was just a little quiff. But then I was really drunkly.
That is real. Like
I'm not behind those eyes.
That is real 2005 Miz vibes.
And I remember, I style myself like the Miz in 2017, big time. I remember all the memories came flooding back, and I believe the exact words I had were were "Thank you, Xavier, for your immense sacrifice." Because the wrestlers really put themselves through a lot for us. They do. Anyway, that's a little tangent.
When I went to the YouTube Christmas party a couple of years ago, me and Ollie went in 2019, and we were just chatting with this guy who was just about to start university.
Yeah.
And we thought, we're pretty big because we've got at that point like 700,000 subscribers.
Goodness.
We feel pretty good. We feel pretty high up in this place. This kid who was about to start. He just told me he was about to start his second YouTube channel because he'd sold his first one for lots of money.
Amazing.
And then used that money to buy a hydraulic press, and he was just filming himself crushing things in this hydraulic press in slow motion.
That's a big industry.
And it was like, and it's paid for me to go to university. And I turned to him and I was like, we're in the wrong game.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
We are doing everything wrong on YouTube.
Yeah.
We are doing every single thing we've done on YouTube has been 100% wrong, which is why I have been pitching for the last 3 years to buy a hydraulic press or to rent one and do a video series called The Squash Match.
Oh, that's very funny.
Thank you very much. We just get wrestling merchandise and we crush it.
You could say that kid was crushing it.
Mariah DR said, I believe Dexter Lumis is perfect for dark comedy segments. Sadly, it looks like there's no real end game in sight. Miz seems to be cursed to be in storylines with potential that just ends poorly. Cough, Shane McMahon, cough, jokes work with a punchline.
Just any form of direction. I think it's anonymous Raw GM. We'll start this thing. It's intriguing. We have no end game.
It's the worst example of
Don't give me a storyline unless you know where you're
the
going.
best example of it, but I didn't
The best example of the worst thing.
Yes, thank you. You saved me. Why did Bobby Heenan's commentary work, but Corey's is not quite right? Why has Asuka been relegated to official holder of important items? Why are they planning Braun versus Omos? I don't think I want that. Anyway, love you guys. Jam that jam.
Yeah, Asuka was holding the title belt, and I did cut to her, and I was like, oh, remember?
Yeah.
I think the difference between Corey and Bobby is very much that Corey seems mean-spirited, whereas Corey seems like he thinks he's better than you, whereas Bobby, Jerry Lawler, the best kind of heel commentators, you see they're a bit snivelly. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, Jerry was so good at sucking up to Boss.
Yeah.
The Boss doesn't even acknowledge that they're there.
Yeah.
But he's just like constantly sucking up to Vince McMahon and the regime and all this sort of stuff. Like I thought he was so great at that role because I've been watching all the 2000 Raws.
Yeah.
Without fail, every single week. Too Cool, hand Rikishi some sunglasses, and he dances.
Yeah.
Every single week, without fail, Jerry Lawler says, it's going to happen now. Like, Jerry, mate.
He's so good. It was such a good time in our lives.
Ben says, hey guys, who do you think has been hurt by the Triple H era? I think it's been Corey Graves because you can see how much he needed Vince in his ear way more than the other commentator thought. I don't think I agree with that.
Yeah.
Because I think Corey's been relatively quite good.
I also think he faces a lot of the same criticisms he has now as that he did then. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question though, because I think there's been a lot of good. It's like who even Vince's pet picks have been given a different direction.
I was gonna say like Omos isn't on TV as much as he once was, and he is just doing the same thing he did during the Vince era. Veer Mahan is sort of nowhere to be seen.
He wasn't ready,
and he had that 1 week run. So I guess something like those projects probably haven't like even Austin Theory I think has survived.
That's
it
what I mean.
He's
been repositioned rather than. So it's a good question. It's definitely something I'm on the lookout because I am conscious that even though we have having a lot of these overlapping storylines, does that then even with a 5 hours of television, create less space for other people.
Yeah.
At the moment, I don't feel like that's happened yet. But
Legas King says, I got to see Imperium wrestle together on the main roster live show Saturday. It was great. I also got to see a Walter Chop live. It was awesome.
Is it still ringing in your ears?
Oh, it's so always fun to see a Walter Chop live. Yeah. You never forget your first, and there will never be a last. Bacon Rasher, hey lads, it's been a while since an Ultra Chat from me. It's lovely to hear from you. So I thought I'd say, did you know that Dana Brooke is still the 24/7 champ and has held it for 159 days? Raw was decent, but I still fast forward through some parts. Final thought, LIW for life.
I don't think anyone has remembered that Dana Brooke is still 24/7 champ, and that's why she's 24/7 champ.
Maybe she's the one who's been hurt the most by the Triple H.
She's just gone sort of nowhere. I mean, she was in the tag title,
and lost twice.
Yeah,
but like. Yeah,
put that title in the bin.
The 24/7 title, it was dead in the water. It's been dead in the water for years. And
it had a good 3-month run.
Enough to know that it's not a good thing. Cooper Bridge, regarding Dan's comment on main event Sammy, every 10th WrestleMania has an underdog victory for the title. So Sammy winning the Perth one would be perfect for WrestleMania 40. I'd say nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
My big thing with WrestleMania 40 is that if they go back to new... Because Vince didn't want WrestleMania to sound old, but now we can have nice things again. So... if they go back to not only numbering them, but they go back to Roman numerals, it will be WrestleMania XL.
That's nice.
Yeah. So they do it in a massive stadium. They try and pack it out over 2 nights. Biggest WrestleMania ever. I'd be all about it.
It'll also be the year I turn 40.
Are you as old as WrestleMania?
I'm as old as WrestleMania.
Love that for you. I, however, won't.
So I've already turned 2000 at one point.
Well, did you enjoy your X7th birthday?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
The Gildy Hat. Professor Dan is the true voice of the voiceless in WrestleTalk. Not only is he the one who sees the value of the Miz, he started to bring down Luke's anti-Miz agenda. I knew you could do it. We're coming for that 3rd star, Owen. He is a 2.5-star wrestler, and that's fine.
No, I get in from the bottom. I infiltrate by seeming nice, but then I make you like the Miz. I will do it. Dan, voice of the voices. I'm running with that for a long time. I'm going to be so smug about that.
I don't think it's going to happen though, because he is. But honestly, I've got my lot with the Miz. He is bang fine, and that's okay because
when
that's
he
what
retires,
you need them.
My work.
I mean, he's going to go in the Hall of Fame.
When he retires, you will shed a tear, and that will be my finest hour.
He'll have his, because like it's in 2 years' time will be his like 20th year in WWE. Yeah. And they'll do this big
how can you not respect someone who started by doing this and being dreadful and doing pranks on people and is now twice a Grand Slam? He's so good.
Yeah, but Dan, I have this about Natalya as well.
She's not as good as the Miz.
There is a difference between being a legend in WWE and being there for a long time.
But I think Miz is a legend. I don't think it's fair to compare him to Natalya. I don't. I think it's Miz actually apropos. I disagree with you.
He is. As my new thing, he's the male Natalya.
Look, you are wrong, and I'm preparing you a PowerPoint presentation.
Because I'll tell you what, I think she's also won all the belts. I'm pretty sure she's some sort of Grand Slam champion in the women's division.
I'm an NXT champion.
Neither's the Miz.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm sorry, you're wrong. No, Natalya is not someone you can... Because Natalya doesn't have that same... She's not as skilled character-wise as the Miz. She's an incredible technical wrestler, has banger after banger, but she's not...
I think that's a stretch.
I think she's great.
I think she's also bang fine.
Oh, fine, whatever. You wouldn't know good wrestling if it slapped you with the... What's his move called?
The skull-crushing finale.
Thank you. I'm sort of brain...
It's a good job I'm here.
I've undermined all the work. I have to start again.
With my anti-Miz agenda that I've got, apparently. Fatal Tommy with this brush that I've got this anti-Miz agenda because I just think he's okay.
You're wrong.
And lastly, Lou here says, not going into details, but After Dark really got me through these past couple of days. Shout out to the B-hole community. And Luke saying the P word. You guys are a consistent joy in an inconsistent world. Love you all.
Bless. That's very nice.
A couple of other chats that have come through. COB said Tegan Knox to be the 4th member of Damage Control.
Do you remember the War Games with Tegan and Dakota Kai?
I know, but now we've got to right that wrong.
Yeah.
Got to get Team Kick back.
There you go. I'm into it.
And I like Team Kick. That's good wrestling I like. AJ should only join if the Good Brothers are not returning. Feed your head. Feed your head. Doggone Mad says, why has Finn not played his That Was All Edge card with AJ? Obviously, it wouldn't work, but I still think it should be mentioned because of Edge and Finn used to team together to fight up against the Judgment Day.
Oh, they did. AJ and Finn,
yeah.
and Liv Morgan, which they get again in the nightmare commentary we're having on this particular show. At one point, I think Jimmy Smith was like, "It went on for ages," and Corey was like, "It happened once."
And Jack Farrow said, thoughts on an injury angle with Jay. Sammy steps in to defend the belts under free belt rules and kills it every week. Jay gets so annoyed that he ends up costing them the belts. And that is the fall of the bloodline.
I'm not mad about that suggestion because I am looking for ways that you can. I mean, how do you split the titles unless they're going with one champion? I mean, I believe the networks want separate champions. So how do
me too?
Well, me too. How do you split the titles? The idea of some form of freebird rule, and that's a really interesting way of causing the bloodline to break from within, rather than it being. I don't know. I'm curious. That's got me thinking. I'm going to be thinking about that for a little while. I like that.
Well, do you know what's got me thinking, Dan?
I don't.
Pressing the subscribe button as well as the thumbs up button on this video, because thank you so much for watching this episode of the WrestleTalk Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today and spending your hour and a bit with us. Sorry,
I want them to do all of those things, subscribe and like, but that was the weakest segue we've ever done.
I wasn't proud of it.
No.
I mean, I started it thinking we had a sponsor for this episode.
Yeah.
And then remembered that we don't.
The sponsor for the episode is you.
Push Tucker. Please do head on over to other videos on this channel because that also helps us out in the algorithm. Thank you for spending your hour and a bit with us. Sorry it went slightly long today, but we just like spending time with you.
Just love you.
We'll be back on Thursday with the AEW Dynamite review. Quite the card they've got for Dynamite this week. Bandido is wrestling Chris Jericho. Okay, 2022 continues to surprise and I'm here for it. Then on Friday, it'll be the Blackpool Content Club, where we are going to be talking about the Malachi Black situation, the Buddy Matthews situation, and how wrestling media covers wrestling news. We thought that'd be in
how meta.
Well, that's what we thought.
It's meta.
It's meta.
That's a bit meta.
I know. I've seen
it.
It's because we thought, from a position that we're in, we could talk about this openly and kind of sort of share some thoughts about that. So please do join us there on Friday. And then Pete and Tempest will be doing the SmackDown review this coming Saturday. But until then, I have been Luke, and that has been the Professor Dan Layton. And that was wrestling. Jam that jam.